Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, happy to be with you this Friday morning and joined by Vern Schellinger. We are delighted to have you here to answer your job search questions. So let's go ahead and get rolling here. Who has got a question for the Peanut Gallery? Want to kick us off, anyone?
I have a question, and I'll put it in the chat as well because it's a bit long, but it's not directly related to like hiring, but it's part of the decision making in searching for a job these days. We've been required to report to the office full time since November, except for a couple weeks in January because of Omicron, and the reason behind it that was given was essentially that we want everyone to feel, there's some people whose jobs require them to come into the office at least part of the time. And so in order for them to feel, I guess, less put out about it, or, to make sure that everyone's on the same page, we're all required to come in full time.
Wow.
I have issues with this policy from a mental health and a productivity standpoint, at least for me personally. But I don't know how to have this conversation with my boss, since I don't know if I should have it, or if I should just suck it up and be a team player, because I don't want to cause issues, but I do feel strongly about this. And I also don't have hard data per se to support my argument. I just know how I personally feel about the situation.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, you don't understand what a nerve you've touched on in the HR world. I mean, this is smack dab in the middle of conversations. You're the first one that I've heard talk about a required 5-day week because of what I'll term equity issues. I've heard many people say, "Oh, we want people in the office. Let's just say part-time, right? Because we want, better culture, people to engage." That I've heard. But when that argument's used, then employees like, "Look, your desire for culture does not outweigh my need for work-life balance and safety." So, but what you're talking about is a little different because of the more equity thing. And I think that a lot of organizations don't have that challenge, frankly. A lot of traditional offices just don't have people who have to be in the office. Are you in a situation where, what kind of company are you working for?
I work for a small association, small in terms of staff size,
Really?
in Alexandria.
Why?
So my job does not require, I can work from home.
Why
100%.
would anybody I mean, that's my world, associations. I don't know of any association that should require anybody to be in the office.
So, and I take all of this with a grain of salt because it's not coming directly from our executive director, but my understanding is it's the executive director's preference and her.
Oh, it's a
she
preference.
trumps the, yeah.
But it's not that, just to make sure I'm clear on this, it's not so for example, it's not like you're working for a commercial real estate company where the concierge has to be in the building. It's not that kind of situation, right?
We have an office manager, and then we have someone else who, signs off on checks and stuff. So they need to come into the office to do parts of their job.
But they don't have to be in the office full time.
I don't believe so. No,
right.
I mean, they didn't during COVID.
I've heard, right.
So.
Where they come in, cut the check, they could leave. I mean, hypothetically. So it's not a requirement. So that to me makes it a little bit different because it's not it's not like a manufacturing company or hospitality or hotel, right? Restaurant, or you have to be there. This sounds like it's more of they need to do like you said, parts of their job there. That to me warrants a conversation, right? Because it doesn't say to me that they have to be in Monday through Friday, 5 days a week to do their job. They've got to be in periodically to cut the check, to do the besides which they could do bill.com, but that's a different story. But check the mail. Okay, fine. There's some things you got to do, in an office. I think it is worth the conversation. Because this is a situation where, so many people are wanting to be at home for whatever reason, whether it's work life or safety. And as long as you have it in a respectful way, which obviously you would, have a conversation, that is, I would simply say, look, can we discuss this? you know, I understand your reasoning here. It strikes, you know, seems to me that these couple of folks don't necessarily need to be in the office full time, and on balance, you know, there are other considerations here in terms of work life and safety and so forth. And, you know, can we have a conversation about you possibly reconsidering this and maybe going to a hybrid, you know, situation, and just pose it, you know, in a very gentle, respectful way, and just get the EDs thinking on this and see if there's any flexibility. That's what I would do. Sonia, really, unless
So
you.
oh, sorry.
No,
I concur with what you said, Shira. I was sitting here listening to her, thinking the same thing as to it could be, you know, I just finished a HR consulting gig where we were hybrid. Every Monday, everybody had to come in, but the rest of the days it's at your call. I went in because I was a consultant and the leader was there, but the rest of the staff did not come in. And every Friday, regardless, everybody was at home, working from home. So you have a way you can talk to your leader and let her know, because the thing that you said that concerned me the most is when you said, I was reading in your chat, you said your mental health. That's nothing to play with. And it'll stress you to the point you can't get the job done. So I would definitely have a talk with her and try to get her to understand. And you may not be able to, you said you don't have any hard facts, but you have information that's in the media now about this, about how people are working hybrid or remote at this time, because you know this virus is real. It's not playing, and you know, no one knows what's going on with in your family. It could be your mother, your husband, your children, you know, and they got to take that into consideration, because the number one thing a company has to do is protect its employees. That's a requirement. So I would definitely, you know, what Shira said, make it happen. Just think about it, figure out how you're going to phrase it, practice the speech, and then execute.
Does it make a difference that the executive director is not my direct boss? The deputy executive director is. So should I talk to him first?
I would,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah. Don't go around your boss. Go
Never.
talk to your boss first, and then if he feels that you need to take it further, then be ready. But like I say, practice your speech and do it. It'll be all right. Don't be weird. Don't be nervous. It will work out.
This is not an uncommon conversation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, on a more general note, almost every organization has jobs that require people to do things that other people don't have to do. And sometimes those things that other people, you know, that are requirements of those jobs aren't fun things to do, or things they don't like, but they have to do them because it's part of the job. So, and I know this is a sensitive issue with lots of people. I listened to the CEO of my daughter's organization several months ago. This is probably 6 months ago, talking about when they were going to come back full time. And he really felt that everybody needs to be in the office 5 days a week. And it was clear to me, this is what he wanted, okay, as the CEO,
Right.
not necessarily in the best interest of all of the employees. So it's a difficult situation because people have strong feelings one way or the other. These employees feel so strongly that they're being asked to do something that nobody else has to do, and therefore, you know, we want everybody to suffer like we are, that we have to go into the office, that, you know.
Yeah, and I will tell you that of all of the staff that have been coming in the office, it's the CEOs. Most of them have not missed a beat. Most of them have come in almost from day one, not exactly, but most of the time, because they kind of feel like they want to role model it, and you know, they just have this thing that I would say majority have done that. And some of those
Right.
folks, yeah, want folks back with them. But you know, I will tell you that I have these conversations a lot. In fact, just the other day, I was, you know, on a call with a bunch of association CEOs actually, and this is literally the conversation that took up half the time, is remote, hybrid, this and that, and everybody had a different, you know, philosophy about it for whatever reason. But it's not uncommon for somebody like you to say, especially the 5-day a week thing. That's very unusual right now. There's only one other organization I've heard of, an association actually, who's been wanting that, you know, for their people, but most people are hybriding. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the
Yeah,
feedback,
sure.
everyone.
For sure, for sure. All right, other questions?
I don't have a question, but I would just like to throw out, I had an interview last Friday. Yeah. And it went well. I mean, I know I performed well in the interview. There were 3 people. One would be my prospective supervisor. And I sent thank you notes, but I sent them late. I just forgot. But I did send them. I haven't heard anything back from them. Should I call or contact them?
You haven't heard back, what do you mean, about the interview or about your thank you notes?
About moving forward in the hiring process.
When was the interview?
Last Friday.
Last Friday? Yeah, I think it's a little too early. It was a first level?
I don't know what first level
I
means.
apologize. The first round interview?
Well, I had already had an interview with the person in HR,
Okay.
and then they've referred me to the hiring manager.
Okay, so you had a hiring manager interview, and how did the hiring manager leave it with you?
She told me that if I had any questions, she gave me her email. She said, contact me at any time. She asked situational questions.
Sure.
And I had them all. So I nailed it. And so then after I responded to each of her questions, she would say, oh, very aggressive, or very resourceful, you know. So I interviewed very well.
Good.
And she said, I don't know if HR told you when we want to hire, which was like February 6th or 13th or something.
Okay.
She said, but it may take one more week or so each way. So she said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
They're interviewing, right? So they're in their process, they're doing their thing. And what I always say on these things is, you know, pack your patience. Because Sarah Lynn, if they want you, they will track you down. You've heard me say before, they'll send a carrier pigeon to your home. You know what I mean? Like, they will find you. If you're the one, there's no need for you to follow up other than you sent a thank you note, and that's good. That's it. Just move on, keep other balls in the air. And if they come back, they come back. I mean, if another few weeks go by, you know, I mean, yeah, you can check in, but really they will track you down.
Okay. And in my thank you notes, I also sent all 3 of them slightly different thank you notes. I sent 2 letters of recommendation.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the next time to check, if the hiring manager said to you, you know, February 6th, February 13th, you know, maybe the middle of February, if you haven't heard anything, then maybe you follow up.
Just to close the loop. But in terms of their interest level, your reaching out is not going to change their interest level. Your reaching out is really just for your own closure. So I would just hang tight, see what happens. A week is really nothing in the life of interviewing at all. If it was a month, okay. But yeah, I just hang tight.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of things happen in the interim. And by the way, they assume you're waiting by the phone, but you should know that. That's just the mindset of, that's the mindset of HR and hiring managers. They think that unless they hear otherwise, you're perfectly interested and you want the job and you're ready to go and you're going to basically be ready to accept an offer if they offer it to you. I mean, that's just the thinking. That's not necessarily the case, but I mean, that's what they think. And so you just hang tight.
Yeah, and from a HR perspective, that was one of the things that used to drive me crazy with hiring managers, because they drag the process out.
Right.
And I would say to them, you're going to lose some
Mhm.
of these best candidates. They are going to take other jobs.
Yep.
You know, they are not sitting by the phone waiting
That's right.
only for
For
our
you.
organization to call you. So, and, you know, as I could stand on my head and, you know, scream at him, and sometimes, oh, I'm busy, I got this to do, my boss wants me to do this. And so by events within the organization, that the recruiting process gets dragged out.
Yep. New candidates pop in, people go on vacation, people that, you know, drag their heels like burns. I mean, there's a million reasons why the process could drag out. So just hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I got a surprise email yesterday as a position I applied for in the beginning of November. And
Right.
I had found somebody in LinkedIn. I networked with them. I spoke with her. She wasn't the recruiter for it. And then she left. So I kind of was like, well, I guess they've moved on. And I have an interview with them. They have to confirm. I have an interview with them on Tuesday. But I started the process in November, beginning of November.
So many variables. So many variables. I know a woman years ago, it was a coaching client, and you know, she applied for a job and didn't get accepted, or didn't even get, I think she didn't even get called in, whatever, on her resume. We redid her resume 6 months later, like the job was back open or something. We completely redid her resume. She got the interview, she got the job. And I say that because you just don't know, right? I mean, maybe anything could have happened, you know? So I just say that there's a lot of variables in the search process, from how people view your resume on the front end, new candidates come in, people change their mind on the search. Like, truly, Fern, Sonia, Kimberly, and I, we've been there. It's just so many variables. So
I
your
had a
part-
company,
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I had a company once call me a year after I applied for the job and said,
No
are you
kidding.
still interested?
Yeah.
Wow.
That actually happened. Now, the federal government's an animal unto itself, but I actually, when I was in charge of the operations for Lee Heck Harrison in Washington, one of my consultants, who was, you know, a career coach, her husband's telling me that he applied to the government like a year ago, and he just got the offer. It was like,
That's very common with the government.
yeah, it's just, you know, they think you're going to be available a year from now. It's just,
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too. I remember asking Shira, like, well, I haven't heard anything from my federal government job that I interviewed with. And, you know, she gave the same advice, just, you know, wait it out. And so one of my references sent me some correspondence from my now boss. I got that job, that federal job. And, you know, she was having to work budget stuff. She was having, you know, other hot things that she had to get to before she could actually even speak to my reference. So yeah, it's just a process. It took a few months for me to get hired into my federal position.
In the job search, there's always one side or the other that feels more of a sense of urgency, right? So it might be you on the one side, right? In fact, it probably is for a lot of folks on this call, because you're doing a good job.
yeah, it's always you.
Uh-huh. On the other hand, though, it could not be you, right? It could be that they are courting you. It could be that they have the urgency to fill the role. They found you somehow. They're courting you. You're happily employed. You're like doing your thing, and they're like trying to rein you. I mean, it does happen that other way too. So there's always one side or the other that feels the urgency, in which case they're always tapping their fingers like, okay, when are they going to get back to me? And I mean, we've all had it happen. Vern, Kimberly, Sonia, right? You hire, you extend an offer, and you're like, they haven't responded right away. Are they going to accept my offer? You know, we get a little nervous about that, depending on the situation. So really, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So, other questions?
So I asked this question of another group as I want to pose it to this group as well, I'm curious about your feedback. So what's your opinion on accepting a job, well, not accepting a job, but interviewing for a job that is at a lesser role than what you've been at? So for example, I've been in leadership, manager for years. So, excuse me, I have an opportunity to interview for a position. It's a more of a supporting role. It's a trainer role. I'm going to go ahead and interview because I'm not, don't know what the outcome could be. You never know. So I'm going to go ahead and interview for it. But just interested in hearing your opinion, going from a leadership role to more of a supporting role.
I think I know quite a few people who are older than 50, 55. And, you get tired at a certain point of not having a job, not having healthcare benefits if you're not on Medicaid yet, Medicare. And I know quite a few people who have accepted lesser roles for that reason. It depends on how long they've been out there looking. But yeah, it gets old.
I have a comment too, Kimberly. I did that once, but I'm not on Medicare or anything like that. But I did that because I was in the job search for a little while, because I am a leader and I have been since the year 20 to the year 2000. I've been at least an HR director. And I had a bout of a transition, and I wanted to work. I wanted to work so bad, and I did take a role that was way beneath where I was, and the salary, all of it was way beneath. And I just thought, oh, it's okay, I'm working. And it was the worst thing I could have done, because while I was giving them more than they had anticipated, every payday I hated them because I couldn't meet my basic requirements because I wasn't making enough. And I said after that, I will never do that again. And that's why I'm in transition right now, because I won't accept a role that I can't meet my basic needs. There's a certain amount, like, Kira has said that many times, there's a certain amount you must bring home. And if you go beneath that, it's going to get old real quick. And you may like the company, you may like the job, but you're going to start scratching your head like, why am I here? So you have to weigh all of that as to what's important to you. And but for me, I will never tell you not to do it. But for me, I won't do that. And I've had a few colleagues come at me and say, Sonia, you just need to get back in the market. You need to be working. You're right, I do. That's how come I consult. But I want a regular full-time job where I can show my needs and my capabilities. And I got a lot of them. It's nothing in HR I haven't done, and even disaster recovery, believe it or not. And I'm not going to accept it. I will do consulting work. That's one of the things I do when I have interviews. If it's a company that really interests me, if I get a rejection or when I get a rejection, I offer HR consulting services. So it's something I can do for them and I'll still be working. But I can't take a regular full-time job that don't meet my basic financial requirements.
So something to consider too is what Sonia's saying is the compensation, totally legit. There's the other side is like the compensation may meet your needs, but the level may not, right? That's a totally different thing. That has more to do with career satisfaction, if you will. So if you really get that and you can imagine yourself in that role for a long period, are you going to be looking for a job in 6 months? I guess that's the question. Because no employer wants to hire you you're only going to be able to make a short-term commitment. Now, of course, there's no
Yeah.
guarantees in life, but everybody wants to go in with best expectations, right? That this really is going to be a marriage, that it's not just going to be a temp job. See, that's the difference. If it was a temp assignment, there is no expectation. There's no obligation. You're temp, they're temp, everybody's temp. Full-time, permanent, right?
Mhm.
Is the expectation is you want this and you're going to stay for a long time, and they're going to keep you for a long time unless something changes. I mean, but out of unforeseen. But if you're going in there and saying, it's a stopgap work and I don't know, and I don't think I'm going to be fulfilled here, and I'm probably going to be back on the street looking soon, you triple think that before
Mhm.
accepting the role.
Yeah.
Unless you really wanted to take a step back, that's different. I have seen people
Yeah.
at certain stages of career, they don't want the XYZ level. They, are perfectly happy, in fact, want something that's maybe a little less stressful, but that's, you got to consider all that.
I guess the other side of the coin is, and Sonia said this, it's a very individual decision based on who you are and what you're about. And, I was not forced, I wasn't forced, nobody put a gun to my head. But when I lost a job and was in a job search, it was a really difficult time for me for a number of reasons. And I took a position that was like $30,000 less than what I was making. And so, but I needed the income because I was bleeding financially, or starting to bleed financially. I needed some income. So I took that job, and it was a lower level job. The person I reported to, she and I had this conversation a year later. She said, "I knew you were overqualified for this job, but I was lucky enough because she had a HR staff of like 7 women." So she actually was looking for a male, that she was going to have a bias towards hiring a male. And so I was just lucky at the time that happened. And by the way, that happened as part of an informational interview. I didn't even know she had a job opening. Somebody said, and Shira, you probably know Angela Spicer at some point.
Yep.
I mean, this was an informational interview with Angela. Somebody said, Angela knows the entire HR community here in Washington, D.C. You need to talk to Angela. So Angela hired me, and I stayed with Angela for 3 or 4 years. And she had the conversation. She said, "I'm happy you stayed 3 or 4 years." She said, "I didn't really know how long you would stay." And yet on that job, I had some significant learning experiences from learning, a 360 assessment that was tailored and customized to the organization. So it actually was a great experience for me. And almost 12 or 13 years later, Angela was instrumental in me getting the job at the American Bankers Association because she was the recruiter for the job. So taking a step back, it could, but again, it's such an individual situation. So you heard Sonia, what she said and what her experience has been.
Yeah.
I had a
You
different.
have to decide if you can handle it. And I know Angela Spicer too. I used her as a consultant once.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say too that, I posted my resume on Craigslist and also on monster.com, like 5-7 years ago. And the CEO of the company contacted me. He was like, "Well, I saw your resume on Craigslist, but the contact information wasn't there." So he went to Monster and got my phone number. And so he initially wanted to interview me for a financial analyst role. And then it turned into a trainer role because they saw my passion about, helping others. And I think I put that on my resume or something. And so, sometimes the roles can change once you get in that interview process as well, like it did for me.
If any of you are having problems with money, getting enough money to live, there's a very big gig market out there to get money. And there's this one organization I joined, which is called Sitter City. So they have a section where you can be a babysitter, and there's another section where you can be a caregiver, either to people with disabilities or the elderly. And I worked for that part. First, I worked for the babysitting, but that was piecemeal. And then this family needed someone for their grandmother, who's 96. And we get along really well. And so the family just keeps booking me for help. And so it's a second job, and it's paying what, $18 an hour. And they Zelle me the money right away. But so that's one option. And then I have a second job working for a temp firm called NRI. And they're very professional. They've always gotten me work. And in this current job, which is where I am right now, they will need someone to replace the person I've already replaced because she has terminal cancer. So they're grooming me. But I don't know, they're grooming me hoping that I will, accept a position afterwards. I don't know if it's going to pay enough to suit me. But that's also, temping is not a bad thing.
A lot of temp agencies out there who need people, because I mean, this is a time with the Great Resignation, right? People are leaving their jobs all over the place. So a lot of openings. So NRI certainly is one. There's a lot of staffing firms out there. Help Unlimited is one I typically refer people to. There's Kelly Services. There's, like Ruthie Postow Staffing. There's literally just Google temp firms or temporary staffing, DC Metro, and you'll come up with a huge list. You can just call them all and see who's got opportunities. The babysitting thing, caregiving, my gosh, talk about an industry that needs people. Huge on any level. So that's certainly something. The other thing too, since you brought that up, Sarah Lynn, about the gig economy, I've mentioned to you guys in the past that I have a community service program called BoomerWorks. And so the main premise, which is exactly addressing what Sarah Lynn said, is we help professionals age 50 plus to re-career into self-employment. However, as part of that, we have a listing on our website under the Earn Income button for gig work. Okay, so mostly what we do is we're training people to actually be self-employed, start a small business. However, for those people who want gig work, freelance work, if you go here to freelance, Earn Income, and then the freelance job sites, go down here, we have a gajillion different listings of all these different, what's called the on-demand economies, these websites where you can, get gig work. Now, it's not like just sign up and you'll get a job right away, right? Because a lot of competition, a lot of these firms, or a lot of these platforms are, international. So you got people you're competing with who don't need to earn as much as we do here, whatever. But still, there's a lot of opportunities here to look down and look over. And then even at the bottom here, there's even things like, being part of a focus group for a research company and earn, I don't know, $250 or something. I mean, there's, transcribing and substitute teaching, and, we have a lot of different, links here. So feel free to avail yourself of that. Okay.
I'm sure you have TaskRabbit there, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. TaskRabbit
Yeah.
is
TaskRabbit is another one I signed up for, and I haven't received any feedback from them, but I'm not quite sure I set it up correctly. I just started getting jobs with with City, and that's it. I don't need any more.
TaskRabbit is, it's basically, if you're handy and you can fix stuff, people will go on there and say, come over and fix my something,
Well, it's that, and it's also helping people take care of people, educating people. It's mentoring. It's teaching kids. There's a lot on there.
Now, what was the one about babysitting? You said Babysitter. Is that the site?
It's called Sitter City.
Oh,
It's an app, and they don't take any kind of percentage. They're just middlemen. And you can sign up. There's a section, and I always have trouble getting to it. There's the babysitter section, which is where it takes you to immediately. But there's another section, you look around for it, or you can call them. They're very good about phone calls. And it's a section on elder care and people with disabilities. So you sign up, you say what hours you're available, and you say what pricing you'll accept, and you can put a range. And then, boom, the day that I signed up there, I got an email right or a text right away, and I've been working with this family ever since. So, I mean, I guess I'm making at least $1,000 a week, and I can squeak by on that between the two jobs.
Yeah, you got to cobble together what you got to do, right?
Yeah, and
Some people call it a casserole of work. You know?
yeah, and so many people, like especially the millennials and Gen Z, they all understand this gig economy. For
Mhm.
them, it's second nature.
Second nature. They call it the side hustle.
Yeah, and there are so many people they show them on TV that are doing just that because it's like working on their own terms when they want, doing what they want,
Mhm.
you know, and you can get by, you can do well.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for your feedback. I appreciate that. It's kind of, well, I have to have the interview first. I may not even go anywhere. So, of course, I'm an interview there. But thank you. I appreciate your feedback. And then just looking at the job description, my concern is more along the lines of what Vern was saying as far as the responsibilities and just kind of looking at it. I'm like, salary wise, surprisingly, it's in my range. But yeah, I'm a little bit more concerned about the duties. However, I still want to go through with it because you never know.
Mhm.
You can have that conversation and it could be, well, maybe you're not suited for this, but maybe we have this. So that's why I still want to explore it.
Yes, and also it's good practice always
Oh
to
gosh,
enter.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's like
You know,
staying
Kimberly,
on.
that happened to me once that I had a interview and the guy said, well, you're overqualified, but I want you to contact this, and this person. And all of a sudden I had leads. You just don't know what's going to happen. I say go for any interview.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because you could always negotiate your salary or at least try, or, I've heard that story too, where a girl, she went in for this one job, but they didn't have the role to hire her. And he took her resume to another department and she was hired in that department. She was just that good. And I've even had an interview with the federal government where, it was 5 people interviewing me. And once I was done, they were like, if so-and-so doesn't hire you, I want you to call me, I'll hire you. And she gave me her business card right in the interview. So yeah,
Oh,
you just never
wow.
know.
Wow,
Mm.
nice.
Well, the other thing that could happen, Kimberly, is in an interview like that, the job's at this level, but given your skills and experiences, or after, if you're in the job 6 months or a year, it gets to a higher level simply because you're bringing more value. You're going to above and beyond what the organization thought they needed.
So I will keep everyone posted, but thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, and you guys were talking about gig jobs. Another site I stumbled upon, I don't even know how. It's called the Mom Project. And I mean, it's full-time jobs, but it's also, I think I stumbled upon them because they were doing some type of seminar I was interested in. But they have postings for gig jobs. So it's, wide range of opportunities. And it's called the Mom Project, but of course, gentlemen can be involved in it as well. But really good opportunities and for gig work as well, if there's something you're interested in.
I'll look it up. Thank you.
Is that the MOM project?
Yes, Mom. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Or comments or best practices or tips or?
Well, I have some
Learn.
comments. The last meeting that I participated in with your group, you were talking about that HR managers are complaining to you because there's not enough talent out there. And you replied that, well, that's because you're asking for a unicorn.
Right.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I mean, back in the olden days, when I was young, there were hiring managers and they would, interview the people directly. The HR department wasn't necessarily involved first.
Right.
But now with the internet, that has shifted to first companies leave it up to the HR people to find the candidates, and then they pass them on to the hiring managers. And I don't know that that's not going to change back. And I remember in the company that I worked for 20 years, when there was that shift because of the internet, people in the company started complaining for the first time about the HR department. Like there was a shift in power and they were blaming them for not finding the right candidate.
They still do.
Right. And
Yeah.
so that puts all the pressure on the HR department to request unicorns.
Yes,
Because-
and not only that, and corporate recruiters too, if it's a large company. Absolutely. Sarah, you literally hit the nail on the head, because the hiring manager is making these demands for the unicorns from HR and from the recruiters. That's literally what's going on, and they feel tremendous pressure. And they have lots of open jobs, especially right now. And then on top of that, trying to find people in this particular market, it's always been hard for them, but it's particularly hard right now. Yeah, there's a lot of confluence of factors.
Exactly. And you also said that companies don't want to train anymore.
That's right.
And back in the olden days, before there was the internet, they had fewer replies to announcements.
They did. And not only that, Sarah Lynn, but there were also more levels of management. Now people are leaner and leaner and leaner, right? So there's a lot of pressure on the hiring manager to get their own job done. They don't want to have to take time to train a new person.
Right.
So there, yes.
So if you have all those things together, then, it's not going to change anytime soon.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But then again, you got people like me out there preaching and saying you got to flex. And whenever I can speak directly to an employer, I'm usually able to get them to something. But it takes a lot of influencing. It really, really does. And sometimes from a third party like myself, because you know how it is, Kimberly and Sonia and Vern, right? When you're the internal, profits never accepted in their own hometown, right? So you bang your head against the wall, and then suddenly this consultant comes in and says the exact same thing you've been trying to say, and all of a sudden it's golden, right?
Right.
Silly. But that sometimes is the way that it is. But it takes a lot of influencing, because people get in their heads, executives, hiring managers get it in their heads. They want what they want, and they're not aware of the candidate market. They don't know what an HR person knows about candidates. They just have their business need and they want to get it fulfilled.
Hey, Shira, can you give us a definition of that term, purple unicorn?
That's funny. You just conflated two. There's the purple squirrel and the unicorn. They're exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Basically, you're funny. I should start saying purple unicorn. That's good. It's really somebody, what we would call like an impossible to find person, somebody who checks every box twice. It's the person who has in the mind of the hiring manager, all the skills, industry experience, educational experience, all of it, that minimizes the hiring risk of the hiring manager. Somebody who's going to slide into home base, who's essentially done the exact job before in the exact same type of environment. That's what they're trying to find as much as humanly possible. Is that realistic? No. Is that fair? No. Is that like we can complain about it, but that's not the point. The point is they are trying to say, look, we don't have time to train. We want somebody to be a good culture fit. We want somebody who understands our members, customers, clients, whatever it is, somebody who understands our industry. All of that, someone who's demonstrated that they've done the job, is all about we don't have time to train. So we want you to hit the ground flying. And so if you look at that job description and you look at all the responsibilities and the industry and all of that, and you line yourself up to it, to the extent that you are a close match like this will be the extent to which they're saying you are a top candidate. But once you start getting away from a little bit, a lot from what they want, the more of a risk they think you are in the hire. On top of which, we have the whole thing around remote work, right? So a lot of people, I've mentioned this, I mentioned I did a LinkedIn poll recently and, asked people, how important is remote working to their search? And 89% of the people of the 309 that responded to me said, very, like 41% said it's non-negotiable, 48% said it's, they're okay with hybrid, but they prefer remote. And this is what's happening. And so a lot of employers are insisting on some sort of hybrid situation. And a lot of candidates are saying, no, thank you. I only want remote. So that's another layer. That's kind of constricting the, the job market. So, yeah.
I have a question on that. Because I had this conversation recently. Do you find this, I want remote, it's not negotiable, regional, or is that across the country?
It's a great question. I can't say that necessarily. I don't even know anecdotally. All I can say is that for people who typically get jobs where it's in a traditional office, not a hotel, not a restaurant, not manufacturing, right? Where not those jobs. Those jobs require people on site. Now, that said, that's a lot of reason why those kinds of industries are having problems finding people, because they don't want to come in. I mean, we've gone to the fast food restaurants, we know about the supply chain issues, not just, so the thing with supply chain often is this very thing, that a lot of people just don't want to do that kind of work. Oftentimes they don't want to be on site. So, I mean, I can say it's nationwide. I would suggest that the people who are in more of the traditional office building kind of a situation, who could totally do their work via computer, are usually more insistent. But on the other hand, again, you've got people who are in other settings like supply chain, hospitality, what have you, who are saying, no, thank you too. What they're doing instead, I don't know, frankly. But people in general are just pulling back from the in-person thing.
Well,
I think safety for one, right? But then for folks in the traditional office setting, I think it's a work-life balance issue as well. In fact, I know that it is.
The reason I asked you this, because I talked to a colleague in the Midwest. That's not a conversation that they even talk about, because everybody has to go to work. I find it more on the East Coast and on the West Coast. They're very big on the remote.
Well, partly, Sonia, it has to do, to your point, it actually has to do in part with the state that you live in, and to what extent and what they feel about COVID. And if you're in Texas or in Florida, you've probably been going to work for a long time, coming into the office. Seriously. So Midwest, I think, in certain states, and it just depends on whether or not, in March 2020, did you go home or not, or some version of that in 2020, right? I think it has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Shira. During the Career Gateway program, we were told if you spend a half an hour on LinkedIn every day, that's the way to go. But I was thinking, like, doing what? Because they don't recommend looking through job boards.
Okay.
So
let me give you a quick answer to that, but then I'm going to give you the video. Were you in my training at Career Gateway of LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay, so you may remember the half of my training was, and I'll point you guys to it again because I have it on my website. Half of my training was about using the advanced search features on LinkedIn, not the job board. The job board on LinkedIn is just like any other job board. You can apply, you may not hear anything. Do not waste time there. You can apply, but don't spend time there. Using the advanced search features on LinkedIn to go network with people is the way to go. So my whole training is on that. In fact, excuse me, there's 2 videos on my website that you can look at. Let me just pull them up fast. All right, so if you go to purposefulhire.com, go to the job seeker tab, go down to Shira Speaks to Job Seekers, There's two videos. The first one is this one, the one that Sarah Lynn that you set in on, using LinkedIn like a pro. This is this is one of the Career Gateway presentations. It's 2 hours. The first part is how to brand yourself on LinkedIn, like the about section and make a compelling brand. The second part is literally how to use the search features and the philosophy around it. But this one here is a newer presentation called Accessing the Hidden Job Market, which has to do with networking. So if you take the philosophy in this video, which I call the family tree networking, which is, I say twins, siblings, first cousins, and second cousins, like basically how close of a relationship does this person have to you? Use that as the philosophy to prioritize your networking, but then you can use the techniques in the other video for how to do it. And I talked somewhat about how to do it in the LinkedIn one, but you could put the two together.
And can you give me that path again, please?
Sure, go to purposefulhire.com
Mm-hmm.
and then go to the job seeker tab.
1 second. Okay.
And then go down to Shira Speaks to Job Seekers. So
Okay.
Job Seekers is the tab, Shira Speaks to Job Seekers is the sub tab, and then scroll down to using LinkedIn like a pro, and then accessing the hidden job market.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. And
That'll be
interestingly, actually, I'll be speaking again. For any of you who are interested, you can come in for free. I've done this before. So I'll be speaking to Career Gateway again, doing that training this Monday, the 24th at 9:30. If you're interested in just popping in for that session, please send me an email and I can get you, free access to it.
It's Monday at 9:30 a.m.
I put my email in the chat, Shira@purposefulhire.com. And it's 9:30 to, I think I usually do for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you're welcome to
I
join.
would like
But you have to let me know so that I can get permission for you and then get you the Zoom link.
Okay, I would like to. I'll be at work, so if the phone rings, I have to put it on mute. But I would like to.
Yeah, and you can just stay on mute the whole time, I mean, if you like, because what I typically do is I do an open Q&A first, get people just asking me questions. And then I do kind of jump into training and it's an organic kind of a thing, but you can stay on mute.
Okay, so so you're at Purposeful Hire.
Shira@purposefulhire.com. It's in the chat.
Okay.
What's Career Gateway?
Career Gateway is a week. Well, it's total of a week. It's not a consecutive week. It's a week total's worth of think of it like a job search boot camp. It's sponsored by an organization called JCA, the Jewish Council for the Aging, and they run this a few times a year. It's $75 for that whole week's worth of program. I think it's like correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah Lynn, I think it's like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, that kind of thing, all day. So you can't be gainfully employed to do this. This is specifically for unemployed folks. It's full day trainings. And it's led by a woman named Elise Barnes, and there's another woman named Jody Rash who's involved, but Elise Barnes does the actual training. And it's all about, it's job search training, resume, networking, all interviewing, the whole nine. So
it's the most comprehensive blow-by-blow description of this current job market and how to navigate it, especially if you're over 50 or 55, whatever it is.
Yeah. And so they'll bring, in addition to Elise doing the training, she'll bring in speakers. I just happen to be one of them. I'm invited every time just to do LinkedIn. But Sarah Lynn, they have other speakers as well, as I understand, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jody's husband speaks on Zoom, and that's also a good one. And Elise is terrific. I've participated in quite a few boot camps and other trainings out there, but I wish I had just gone to Jody's program first. And Shira, afterwards, after each session, they send you a recording of the session. So they sent us the recording of Shira's session, and I watched it 3 more times because every time I watched it, I got a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, because my training's kind of fire hosey. There's a lot, I just because there's so much about LinkedIn that you need to know. And so, yeah, it is worth watching. But again, that one of those trainings is that training that I shared on my website.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good one. And I don't know if the other people on this call know, but it's a good idea to get your connection number on your LinkedIn site to say 500 plus.
At least, yep. Mhm.
Right,
That shows that you're kind of in the know.
right, that you're connected.
Mhm.
So what I did is, this was about 2 months ago or a month and a half. I just pulled up, typed in recruiter, and then I got a whole bunch of recruiters listed, and I just clicked on connect, connect, connect,
Yeah.
connect.
And most of them
And I
accepted
know-
you, right?
Yeah, I went from 120 to 500 plus in
Wow.
a month and a half.
Yeah. Most recruiters will accept your invitation.
And then you get a lot of secondary
Mhm.
connections because they're very well connected
Mhm.
recruiters.
Right.
They have to be.
That's right.
So
And
that was like-
recruiters, especially recruiters who are in your field. I mean, if you're in customer service and you're trying to connect with a technical recruiter, I mean, you could, but you know, it's not as much worth either one of your time. But try to find recruiters who are in your space. Yeah. Cool. All
So
right.
the
Yeah.
career gateway, I highly, highly recommend it.
They're good people. They are. All right. Other questions before we wrap up here?
No, this is great. Thank you, Shira.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up for today. And for those of you who want to stay on the prayer call, happy to do that with you guys. And yeah, I think then we will see you for the rest of you. We'll see you, Lord willing, next week.
Okay, take care.